Good evening. You've arrived at a quiet place meant for rest. Tonight, there is nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to follow closely, nothing you need to remember later. This is a slow science story told gently. It's designed to remain in the background, steady and predictable, as the body settles into rest. You don't need to listen carefully. You don't need to keep track of where one sentence ends and the next one begins. If your attention drifts, that's fine. If you hear only fragments of what's being said, that's also fine. Right now, your body is already doing what it knows how to do. Breathing continues on its own. The weight of your body is supported by the surface beneath you. There is no posture to correct and no effort required. This video isn't here to guide you toward a goal. It isn't here to create an experience or to lead you through something new. It's here to remain consistent, quiet, unchanging. Everything you'll hear tonight is based on well-established scientific understanding. Nothing speculative, nothing dramatic. Just simple descriptions of natural processes that occur whether or not anyone is paying attention. They'll be shared slowly, without urgency, because nothing here is happening quickly, and nothing here needs a response. The setting for tonight is a forest at night, not as an image to hold in your mind, but as a stable environment, one that changes very little over short periods of time. At night, in places like this, activity slows, signals decrease, the environment becomes more predictable. This kind of stability matters to the nervous system. It reduces the need to stay alert. It allows attention to soften on its own. If you fall asleep at any point, that's expected. If you remain awake for a while longer, that's fine too. There is no sequence you need to follow. The story does not build toward a conclusion. It continues at a steady pace without introducing anything sudden or new. You may notice pauses between phrases. Those pauses are intentional. They leave space for the body to settle without being asked to do anything at all. For now, you can simply remain where you are, listening if you want to, not listening if you don't. The quiet science story will continue in the background, slowly, evenly, at the same unhurried pace as the night itself. As you continue resting, there's no need to adjust your position unless your body naturally wants to. If you're already comfortable, you can let stillness remain. Breathing is happening on its own. There's no need to change it. No need to slow it down or make it deeper. Each breath arrives and then leaves without effort. The body understands this rhythm well. It has been doing this quietly, without instruction, for your entire life. You might notice the gentle rise and fall of the chest, or the subtle movement of the abdomen. There's no need to focus on these sensations. Simply knowing that they are there is enough. The muscles of the face may already be softening, the area around the eyes, the jaw resting without being held in place, the tongue settling naturally. Nothing needs to be released deliberately. Nothing needs to relax on command. The nervous system doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to safety and to time. Your shoulders are supported. They don't need to drop or move in any particular way. They are already being held by the surface beneath you. The arms are where they are. They don't need symmetry. They don't need a specific position. They can simply remain still. If there's any tension present, it doesn't need to disappear. The body does not require complete relaxation in order to rest. Rest can happen even when some areas remain unchanged. Lower in the body, the legs are supported fully. Their weight is already being carried. There's nothing to balance, nothing to keep upright. The feet don't need attention. They don't need to feel warm or heavy or light. They can simply exist at the far end of the body, quiet and unremarkable. As these sensations remain steady, the brain begins to notice the lack of demand. There is no task waiting, no signal to respond to, no adjustment required. This is often when mental activity starts to slow on its own. Not because it's being forced to, but because there is nothing pressing that needs to be processed. Thoughts may still appear, fragments of the day, images, unfinished sentences. They don't need to be pushed away. They don't need to be followed. They can pass through the mind the same way background sounds pass through a quiet space, present for a moment, then gone. If your attention drifts away from these words, that's completely fine. The body does not require a continuous input. It responds just as well to consistency and to tone. The voice you're hearing isn't here to guide you somewhere specific. It's here to remain steady, providing a constant, predictable presence that the nervous system doesn't need to monitor closely. There's nowhere else to be right now, nothing else to prepare for. The night does not require readiness. You can continue resting exactly as you are, breathing, supported, unchanged. The body already knows how to remain still. It already knows how to rest. As the body remains supported, attention often begins to loosen on its own. There is no clear line between being awake and resting more deeply. Instead, there is a gradual shift, one that happens quietly, without announcement. This kind of transition is common in nature. Many processes do not move in steps. They move through slow changes that are easy to overlook. Light fades without a single moment when day becomes night. Temperature adjusts gradually as the evening continues. Sound changes as well, not suddenly, but through a steady reduction in activity. None of these shifts require coordination. They don't respond to observation. They happen whether or not anyone is paying attention. The body is familiar with this kind of rhythm. It developed within environments shaped by repetition and gradual variation, not by constant stimulation. Because of that, predictable conditions tend to feel safe. They don't demand quick reactions. They don't signal urgency. As attention softens, it may feel less focused on specific sensations and more open to a general sense of steadiness. There's no need to hold on to details, no need to form clear images. If images appear on their own, they can pass naturally without being examined. In darker environments, the nervous system receives fewer signals. Visual input decreases, movement becomes less noticeable. This reduction does not create emptiness, it creates space. Space for internal systems to settle at their own pace, without being asked to do anything. The mind doesn't need to track what comes next. There is no sequence to follow. Nothing here is building toward an outcome. The voice continues at an even pace, not to capture attention, but to provide a steady reference point. Something consistent enough that the mind doesn't need to stay alert. Over time, thinking often becomes less verbal. Not because thoughts stop entirely, but because they no longer need to organize themselves around tasks or decisions. This change doesn't need to be noticed. It doesn't need to be marked. It unfolds on its own. Just as in natural environments, where gradual shifts happen without drawing attention to themselves, As the surroundings become more stable, awareness can begin to move into the background. Words may still be heard, but they don't need to be interpreted. They can remain as sound, moving at a steady pace without forming clear ideas. Pauses may feel longer. Time may feel less distinct. This is not something to observe closely. It can happen without awareness. The body does not need instruction now. It already understands how to remain still in conditions that don't change quickly. The transition continues quietly. There is no point where it completes. It simply deepens, moment by moment, as the night remains unchanged. At night, a forest becomes a relatively stable environment. This stability is not created by stillness alone. It comes from a combination of physical conditions that change more slowly after dark. As sunlight fades, the largest source of energy in the environment is reduced. Without direct solar heating, temperatures begin to vary less from moment to moment. During the day, sunlight creates uneven warming. Surfaces heat at different rates. Air moves more quickly as warm and cool regions interact. At night, these differences decrease. The flow of energy becomes more uniform. This leads to fewer rapid changes in air movement and temperature. In a forest, this effect is especially noticeable. Trees and vegetation create layers. They block and absorb remaining heat. They slow the movement of air. Because of this, wind tends to be weaker and more irregular beneath the canopy. Sudden gusts are less common. Movement becomes more predictable. Sound behaves differently as well. Leaves, branches, and soil absorb vibration. This reduces the distance that sound travels and softens sharp changes in volume. Instead of carrying far, most sounds fade quickly into the background. The result is not silence, but consistency. Low-level sounds may still occur, but they tend to remain similar from one moment to the next. For the nervous system, this kind of consistency matters. Environments that change rapidly require constant monitoring. They signal the possibility of sudden events. Environments that change slowly do not place the same demands on attention. In a forest at night, light levels remain low and steady. Visual information is limited. Without strong visual input, the brain has less data to process. This naturally reduces mental activity. The absence of sharp contrasts means there is less to track. Temperature follows a gradual curve, rather than sudden shifts. Air remains relatively still. The physical surroundings provide few signals that require interpretation. From a biological perspective, many organisms reduce activity under these conditions. Metabolic processes slow. Movement becomes less frequent. Energy is conserved rather than spent. This does not mean that life stops. It means that patterns become more regular. Regularity reduces uncertainty. When uncertainty decreases, the nervous system can lower its level of alertness. This response does not depend on conscious thought. It is automatic. The body does not need to analyze the environment to recognize stability. It responds to patterns it has encountered repeatedly over long periods of time. For humans, nighttime conditions like these have been present throughout most of our history. Long before artificial lighting, darkness signaled a reduction in activity. It marked a shift toward rest. Modern environments often interrupt this signal. But in natural settings, the pattern remains clear. Low light, reduced movement, fewer abrupt changes. These factors combine to create an environment that does not demand immediate response. As the forest remains steady, The same principle applies internally. When external signals decrease, internal systems are given more space to settle without interference. The mind does not need to scan for changes. The body does not need to prepare for action. Nothing here is moving quickly. Nothing here is approaching suddenly. The environment remains consistent from one moment to the next. This steadiness does not require attention. It does not need to be maintained. It exists on its own, supported by physical conditions that change slowly over time. And as this stable background continues, it provides a quiet foundation for rest to deepen naturally, without effort and without instruction. In a forest at night, sound behaves differently than it does during the day. This is not because sound disappears, but because the conditions that shape it become more consistent. During daylight hours, sound competes with movement. Wind changes direction. Surfaces heat unevenly. Air shifts quickly from place to place. Each of these changes alters how sound travels. At night, many of these influences are reduced. Air movement slows. Temperature differences between surfaces become smaller. The atmosphere becomes more uniform. When the air is more uniform, sound waves bend and scatter less abruptly. They lose energy gradually rather than suddenly. In a forest, this effect is amplified by the physical structure of the environment. Trees, leaves, and undergrowth absorb sound. Soil and uneven ground prevent reflection. There are fewer hard surfaces to carry vibration. As a result, most sounds do not travel far. They soften quickly. They blend into the background. What remains is not silence, but a low level of steady sound. This steadiness is important. The human auditory system is highly sensitive to change. It responds more strongly to variation than to constant input. Sudden increases in volume, unexpected rhythms, or sharp contrasts tend to draw attention automatically. In contrast, sounds that remain similar over time require less monitoring. When auditory input is predictable, the brain reduces its level of alertness. This process happens without conscious control. It is part of how the nervous system conserves energy. In a night forest, sound rarely changes abruptly. If a sound is present, it often continues at a similar level. If it fades, it does so gradually. There are long stretches where nothing new is introduced. From one moment to the next, the auditory environment remains largely unchanged. This lack of novelty matters. Novelty activates attention systems. Its absence allows those systems to remain quiet. Over time, the brain begins to treat the sound environment as safe and unimportant. When that happens, sounds no longer need to be identified or interpreted. They can remain as background. This is similar to what happens when a steady noise is present for long periods. At first, it may be noticed, but as it remains unchanged, it fades from awareness. The nervous system does not stop receiving the signal. It simply stops prioritizing it. In darkness, this effect is often stronger. With less visual input, the brain relies less on external cues. Auditory information becomes simpler, not because it increases, but because it does not vary. In natural environments, this combination of low light and steady sound has been common for much of human history. It signaled periods when little action was required, periods when remaining still was the most efficient response. The body does not need to analyze these conditions to respond appropriately. It adjusts automatically, based on patterns it has encountered repeatedly. As the sound environment remains stable, there is no reason to stay alert for change. No sudden signals are expected. No rapid shifts are likely. This allows attention to move further into the background. Sounds may still be present, they may still be heard, but they do not need to be followed. They do not carry information that requires response. They remain even, predictable, and unremarkable. As this steady auditory background continues, the nervous system can remain at ease, without effort and without instruction. The environment does not demand listening. It allows listening to soften. And in that softness, the body remains supported by conditions that change slowly and do not call for attention. As the external environment becomes more stable, the human nervous system responds in predictable ways. This response does not require intention. It does not depend on belief or expectation. It is a physiological adjustment shaped by repeated exposure to similar conditions over long periods of time. When light levels decrease, the brain receives fewer visual signals. This reduces the amount of information that needs to be processed at once. With less input arriving, neural activity begins to shift. Certain systems remain active, maintaining breathing, circulation, and basic awareness. Other systems reduce their level of engagement. This redistribution of activity is part of how the body conserves energy at night. In low-light conditions, the body's internal timing system becomes more prominent. This system responds to environmental cues, especially the absence of bright light. As darkness continues, the release of melatonin gradually increases. Melatonin does not force sleep. It does not act as a switch. Instead, it signals that the conditions for rest are present. It lowers overall alertness and supports the transition toward quieter neural states. At the same time, the nervous system reduces its sensitivity to external stimulation. Signals that would demand attention during the day become less important at night. This is not a shutdown, it is a recalibration. The balance shifts away from rapid response and toward maintenance and recovery. In stable environments, this shift happens more easily. When sounds are predictable and light remains low, the brain does not need to remain vigilant. It does not need to scan continuously for change. This allows activity in certain regions to slow without risk. Breathing remains automatic. Heart rate adjusts naturally. Muscle tone may decrease slightly. These changes are subtle. They unfold gradually. There is no clear moment when one state ends and another begins. Instead, the nervous system moves along a continuum. At one end, there is full alertness. At the other, deep rest. At night, in environments that change slowly, the system tends to drift along this continuum without resistance. This process is supported by the absence of demand. Nothing in the environment requires immediate action. Nothing signals urgency. The body does not need to prepare for rapid movement or decision-making. This lack of requirement is as important as any active signal. When nothing is expected, the nervous system can release effort. Attention becomes less focused. Thoughts become less structured. Not because something is happening, but because nothing is. The forest at night provides this kind of context. Low light, steady sound, minimal variation. These conditions align with the nervous system's natural tendency to reduce arousal. The body recognizes the pattern without conscious awareness. It has encountered similar conditions many times before. As a result, the response does not need to be learned. It emerges automatically. This does not guarantee sleep, and it does not need to. Rest can occur without complete loss of awareness. The system simply settles into a state where less effort is required. As this adjustment continues, there is no need to track the details. The process does not depend on understanding. It unfolds whether or not it is being noticed. And as the night remains unchanged, the nervous system continues to respond in the same gradual way, supported by conditions that do not ask for attention. By now, the main patterns have already been established. The environment remains steady. Light stays low. Sound does not change quickly. The forest continues in the same way, moment after moment, without interruption. There is no new activity to track, no shift in direction, no signal that something different is about to happen. The same physical conditions remain in place. Air moves slowly. Temperature changes gradually. Sound stays even and subdued. These processes do not require attention because they are not moving toward an outcome. They repeat. The nervous system responds well to repetition. When patterns remain unchanged, there is less need to monitor the environment. The brain does not need to predict what comes next because nothing new is expected. This allows attention to loosen further. Breathing continues without being guided. The body remains supported without effort. There is no need to notice each sensation. There is no need to name what is happening. The same steady conditions apply inside the body as they do outside. Nothing is accelerating. Nothing is resolving. The forest does not signal completion. It does not move toward an ending. It simply remains. This repetition is not meant to reinforce understanding. It is meant to reduce demand. When information stops changing, the brain can stop working to organize it. Words may still be heard, but they do not need to connect to form meaning. They can remain a sound, arriving at a predictable pace, then fading. Pauses may feel longer. Time may feel less structured. There is no reason to keep track of how long this has been going on. The same ideas return quietly, not to add detail, but to maintain rhythm. The forest is still dark. The environment is still calm. The body is still supported. These facts do not need to be restated to be true. They remain true whether or not they are noticed. This is often the point where listening becomes optional. Awareness can drift without needing to return. If attention stays with the sound of the voice, that's fine. If it moves away, that's fine too. Nothing here depends on participation. The repetition continues because the conditions themselves have not changed. The night does not progress in noticeable steps. It holds the same shape for long periods of time. And within that steadiness, there is nothing new to anticipate. The system does not need to stay alert for what comes next. It can remain where it is, supported by repetition, settling further without being asked to do so. At this point, there is no need to keep track of what has already been said. Nothing here depends on remembering details. The patterns described remain the same whether or not they are followed. The forest is still dark. Sound remains steady. The environment has not shifted. There is no signal that something important is about to happen. Nothing new is being introduced. The same conditions continue in the same way. This is intentional. When information stops changing, the brain no longer needs to stay alert. It can remain open without monitoring. Words may still be heard, but they do not need to be interpreted. They can pass through awareness without forming clear ideas. The body remains supported. Breathing continues at its own pace. Nothing has changed suddenly. Nothing needs to be adjusted. The surroundings are unchanged. The tone of the voice remains even. There is no advantage in staying awake for what comes next. The science does not become more complex. The pace does not increase. Everything continues as it has been. If sleep arrives now, nothing is missed. The processes being described do not move toward a conclusion. They repeat. They remain. If awareness fades, it fades naturally. If it returns briefly later, it can drift again just as easily. There is no correct way to experience this moment. Some nights rest arrives quickly. Other nights it arrives in stages. Both are normal. The body does not need instruction. The mind does not need reassurance. The steady rhythm is enough. From here on, information density remains low. No new ideas will appear. The story does not progress forward in the way stories usually do. It stays. And in that steadiness, sleep has room to settle quietly, without effort, and without needing to be noticed at all. The night continues without noticeable transition. There is no marker to indicate the passage of time. The forest remains in the same state. Darkness stays consistent. Sound does not shift. Nothing signals a change in direction. Cycles continue, not as events, but as repetition. The same conditions return moment after moment. Low light, steady sound, minimal movement. These patterns do not build. They do not resolve. They repeat because there is no reason for them to do otherwise. The body responds to this repetition without effort. Breathing continues at a pace that does not need adjustment. The body remains supported in the same way it has been. There is nothing to hold in place, nothing to prepare for. If attention moves away, it does not need to return. If it remains briefly with the sound of the voice, that is fine as well. Awareness can drift without consequence. The same phrases return gently, not to explain, but to maintain rhythm. The night remains steady. The environment remains unchanged. These statements do not add information. They reinforce continuity. Continuity reduces the need to stay alert. When nothing changes, there is nothing to anticipate. The mind does not need to organize experience into sequence. Moments do not need to be counted. Words arrive and fade. Pauses may stretch. Sentences may blur. Meaning becomes less distinct. This is expected. The voice continues as a constant presence, not directing, not guiding, just remaining. The cycles described here do not have a beginning or an end. They do not move toward completion. They persist in the same way. The forest does not progress. It holds. The night does not advance in noticeable steps. It remains. The same quiet conditions support the same quiet response within the body. Nothing new is required for this to continue. No action is needed. No awareness is required. The repetition remains sufficient. And as these cycles continue without change, attention can soften further, without needing to be released or reclaimed. The night stays as it is. The rhythm stays as it is. And within that sameness, there is no reason to remain awake for what comes next. Nothing new is being explained now. Only familiar ideas remain, softly repeating, without detail. Darkness continues. Light stays low. The environment remains stable. These conditions do not need description. They do not need emphasis. They are already present. Sound remains even, not absent, not changing. It does not carry information. It does not ask to be identified. It stays. The body continues responding to the same steady conditions. Breathing remains automatic, Support remains constant. There is no need to notice how these processes work. They have been continuing without interruption. The nervous system does not need reminders. It recognizes stability without effort, low variation, low demand, no urgency. These are not instructions. They are simply conditions that remain in place. Time does not need to be measured. There is no sequence to follow. Moments do not move toward an outcome. They do not lead anywhere. They remain where they are. Words may still be heard, but they are no longer carrying explanation. They move at a steady pace, like background sound. Meaning softens, structure loosens. Pauses feel longer. Sentences do not need to complete. Nothing is missing when they fade. The same quiet patterns persist. Darkness, stillness, consistency. These ideas do not change from one moment to the next. They do not require attention to remain true. The body continues resting within these conditions. The mind does not need to stay present. Awareness can drift without needing to return. Nothing here depends on being noticed. The background remains sufficient. And as these minimal echoes continue, there is nothing left to follow. Only a steady rhythm, remaining quietly in place without asking for anything at all. The rhythm continues. Nothing shifts. Nothing resolves. The same steady patterns remain in place. Darkness stays consistent. Sound remains even. The environment does not change. There is no signal marking the passage of time. Moments do not separate clearly. They overlap. The voice remains present, but it does not ask to be followed. Words arrive, then fade. Sentences do not need to complete. The space between them is enough. Breathing continues on its own. There is no need to notice it. The body stays supported. Nothing needs to be held or adjusted. If sleep has already arrived, the rhythm continues without needing to be heard. If awareness returns briefly, it can drift again just as easily. Nothing here depends on attention. The same quiet conditions remain. There is no change in direction, no increase in pace. The patterns do not build. They do not conclude. They stay. Meaning softens further. Words lose their edges. They no longer need to connect. They can exist as sound, moving slowly without forming ideas. Pauses may stretch. Time may feel less distinct. This is not something to observe. It happens without awareness. The voice continues as a background presence. It does not guide. It does not instruct. It remains steady, predictable, unremarkable. There is no reason to stay awake for what comes next. Nothing important is about to happen. The same rhythm is enough. The same quiet remains. And within that sameness, the night continues, without beginning and without end. The rhythm remains. Nothing changes. Darkness stays the same. Sound stays the same. There is no movement that needs to be noticed. The voice continues, quiet and even, without direction. Words arrive without needing to connect. Some may fade before they finish. That is fine. Breathing continues. The body remains supported. Nothing needs attention. There is no signal to follow, no moment to mark. Time does not separate into clear parts. Moments blend. The same steady conditions remain in place. Low light, low variation. No urgency. Nothing here moves toward an ending. Nothing resolves. The night does not conclude. It continues without announcement. If awareness is present, it does not need to stay. If it fades, nothing is lost. The background is sufficient. The rhythm continues on its own. Words no longer carry meaning. They are only sound moving slowly, evenly. Pauses are part of the pattern. Silence is allowed. Nothing is required to keep this going. The environment remains steady. The body remains at rest. There is no reason to return to attention. The night remains, the rhythm remains, and the quiet continues without needing to be noticed.